There we go. Okay, I'm calling to order the December 15, 2022 meeting of Columbia Open Space Committee. Let's see, we will table approval of the minutes until they get printed and we get them. And so we will go right to Honor Lawler. You're on, Honor.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Thanks, Anne. Thanks for having me, as always. So I'm gonna give a little bit of an update on what's happened over the last month or so, but I also just wanted to, if she hasn't been introduced yet, introduce Kim Bradley from the state, who is, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, the new DEP trail coordinator director, and who is going to be working with us on the master trails plan that TPL has committed to help provide for the community and the state and the town and all the user groups to. So anyway, feel free to jump in there, Kim, and say hi.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. And, many thanks to Honor for kind of getting me up to speed and helping work through what we need to acquire from DEP to proceed with this effort. As Honor noted, I am Kim Bradley, and I'm the new Trails and Greenways Coordinator with the Division of State Parks and Public Outreach. And so if many of you have worked with Lori Giannotti in the past, I've taken over her position. Because of my experience and skill set, I am not only serving as a contact for the Recreational Trails Program, which is administration of the Rec Trails Grant. And many of you, I'll make sure that you're aware that the RFP for that is now open. But I also serve as the main contact for our state lands, so state parks and forests, considering trail specific topics. So I work closely with our supervisors and our head of state parks, Tom Tyler, and help to guide and support efforts on trail issues across the state. So I'm very excited about this project. Honor can tell you, if you ever look at some of the imagery that's used from the Mono Pond initial acquisition project, my daughters actually served as some of the models for that. So one of my favorite pictures ever is on the Airline State Park Trail of my oldest daughter riding her bike. So I am very excited to have the opportunity to kind of circle around from supporting and advocating for the initial acquisition to actually helping all of you come up with a plan that will work directly with DEP to support both the interests of the town and our state and community assets in helping make a really great opportunity for recreation at Mono Pond. So thanks, Honor, and I know we'll kind of continue this discussion throughout. So I really appreciate the opportunity to attend this morning.
Yeah, glad you could make it. So just to tag on to, where we are with the actual approval. So I think earlier this week, TPL got the letter from DEP that sort of blesses us to move forward in getting an official master plan done, draft master plan done. And so what that means is that we'll start working with, internally at TPL to come up with, whether it's IMBA, who we had originally sort of pointed to help us do some of the master trail planning. They're really, experts in the field of trail planning and trail implementation, and not just for mountain bikes, but for all types of user groups. And, they're sort of best in class in that sense. And there are other organizations and, Kim and I will be in close contact about who we partner with to do the actual planning, because TPL, we're not a trail planning organization. We're sort of a trail implementation and acquisition and park development organization. So we'll have to partner with an organization to help us plan. And IMBA is sort of top of mind, but we're going to explore other relationships too, and come up with something. And we've got some fundraising to do to raise the money to actually pay for the planning. And so planning, we got a grant from a foundation for about $5,000, and that covers probably a third to, somewhere around, a third of the cost for the plan itself. There's also, Kim and I did talk about the Rec Trails grant RFP, whether that's a good fit for the planning itself. So we can, we're going to discuss that further, but exciting that we now have the green light to go ahead and start getting to work, so that, hopefully by maybe this time next year, we'll be talking about applying for a grant for implementation. And that's really exciting. And, only a year out, potentially. So that's where we are with that. And I think you all are probably going to have some questions about so I'll open it up.
I have a question. We have town-owned land that's sort of embedded in this project. What do you need from us to include that land in the plan?
So, Anne, I think that question, it's obviously the lands are they're contiguous. They're sort of, the idea of managing them together makes a lot of sense. At the same time, it's not owned, it's not part of the state park. And so I think that becomes a part of the planning evaluation is this land included in the master plan? Does the town feel like that's an appropriate use? What are the town's priorities for that land in terms of trail usage? And is it, you want to keep that land, sort of light touch? Do you want to, make it a trail that goes to the historic elements on that property or the pond? And I think all those, that can just come into play during the planning process. And certainly, there may be a situation where we need a letter from the Board of Selectmen that says, we endorse, TPL and DEP to incorporate this land into the trails plan for Mono Pond State Park. And also, from the DEP, trail maintenance is certainly an issue at the agency, and they have to think about how having contiguous trails that go from town-owned land onto state park land, if that's compatible. And I recreate in our state parks all the time, and they abut town-owned open space all the time, and the trails continue right on, and it's no problem. But it's certainly, I think, part of the discussion and the planning. But Kim probably has more insight into that than I do.
Yeah, so I've actually had this conversation just recently because other projects are looking at this as well. And I had a nice, thorough conversation with Tom Tyler last week. And so from the implementation end, all we would need is that letter from the town, whether it be the Board of Selectmen or whatever management entity is within the town, that says that they are interested and are proposing a connection of trail between the state property and the town property. As long as we have that permission in writing, what we end up doing is we could just make sure that signage is clear that you're going from a state property to a town property. And we are, very much proponents of doing that. Connected trails really provide an extended opportunity. And, from our standpoint, when we have connected open spaces, sometimes that can reduce the footprint of recreation on our state land. So we're always open to that. So that's pretty easy. And like I said, we can include that within the planning process. And I don't think we would need from the state a letter of support until we were actually moving into an implementation stage.
I have a couple of questions.
I'm Tom McGrath, and I'm president of the new Friends of Mono Pond State Park. And I'm not sure, Kim, if you've heard of us yet, or?
Honor introduced me to the fact that this group has been formed. So I'm very interested in connecting with all of you, and it's exciting to hear that a friends group has been established. So that's great.
Okay, so you'd be the one that would help us know what it is we should and shouldn't do, right? Or would you direct us to somebody else?
Yep. So I could help you in particular with the trails. So if there is something kind of on a more infrastructure level, we'd work closely with Dave Buckley, who's still the supervisor of this area. So I am definitely the person that can serve as a contact to make sure we're bringing whoever is required within our state park division to ensure things are approved and give you the resources you need and the connections you need. So I'm more than happy to serve as that touch point.
Okay, the next one was, I just became aware of another group that's working to put a master plan together for the airline trail.
Yep.
Which abuts the Mono Pond for about a mile. Is there coordination between this TPL and them so that the master plans will mesh together?
That's great.
There's
What I
not.
will. Oh, good. All right.
I was just gonna
So-
say, I think you're talking about the what is it, RCD group.
Whatever it is.
Yep.
Yeah,
RCD.
I've reached out to Gene Davies before, and we talked when that was proposed, this 12-town sort of concept, but we haven't been in touch lately. Kim probably knows more about what they're doing specifically, so.
Yeah, and what I will do is I will make sure I send Honor. I am serving as one of the DEEP liaisons to that project. You know, it makes sense from the Trails Coordinator position. So what is really beneficial is I actually worked with their group. My previous position before I came to DEP in July was with Yukon Extension, and I was the program manager for the Connecticut Trails program that they put forward. So I helped implement the Connecticut Trails Census program, which looks at evaluating the level of use on many of our multi-use paths across the state. What is excellent is we have long-term data on the Airline State Park Trail. As a component of this project, we actually did a supplement where we did temporary counts along the trail to get an annual estimate of use for the Airline State Park Trail overall. We also collected focused survey information. So I wrote the report on that evaluation of use, and the survey information disseminated that. So it puts me in a great place to really work with this group. The next step that they're going through is they're actually going to do a series of evening presentations on different components and topics of this overall plan. So that's the long-winded way of saying I'll let Honor know about those events so she can sign up. That's open to the public, so anyone in this group can sign up as well. If you haven't received that information, I'm happy to pass it along. Once they go through those workshops and get some more public input, they'll be actually putting together the deliverable plan. So I'll ensure that this item is noted within the plan, that it this group, as we go into, it's kind of nice timing that that plan should be developed, I believe, by the summer. And so it'll kind of be nice timing for the planners that will go into this trail planning effort to kind of look at what's come of that master plan and help to integrate what's useful between the two. So we'll make sure that this is a project that's noted. And yeah, I think the timing actually works out really well.
Good. I mean, my expectation is the parking for that area, the airline trail, will be how a lot of people will access the mountain bike trails in Mono Pond. Then the third question I had for you was, which may not be in your area, was we currently have bow hunters allowed in Mono Pond State Park. Is that going to continue? Is it going to be over the whole area? If it is, does that affect how the trails would be laid out?
That's a great question. And again, I think that information will play well into how this planning effort goes. What I can do internally is touch base with our Bureau of Natural Resources or Wildlife Division and see kind of what they have been doing in this area. I know that there has been discussions even internally in DEP of concerns of, conflict when we have hunting allowed as well as trails. I actually have great experience. I live in Salem, Connecticut, so I'm actually pretty close to this area. But I work very closely from both a volunteer standpoint and even in my professional realm with the town of Lyme, Connecticut. And they are very successful at having a broad range of multiple uses, not just on trails, but over all of their properties. So they have some great strategies for integrating trail use combined with hunting. So even if bow hunting is proposed as a continued use here, I don't think that it'll really block any trail development. In some ways, I think it could be a great example to highlight the capacity to be able to have these concurrent uses and demonstrate that we can reduce conflict. Bottom line, bow hunters usually hunt sun up, sun down, as long as it's clearly communicated that this is occurring during those time frames. There's ways that we can make sure that trail users are aware of this use and kind of mindful and taking the right steps for it. And the same with the hunters, being respectful that there is, trail opportunities in these lands as well. So that's a great question, and I will definitely follow up with that.
And also, Tom, I think that, there's this old stewardship plan for Monopond State Park from when it was established back in the 80s. And we got so far with Holly Lalim, who was a former employee at DEP, of updating that for the new acquisitions. And she left the agency for Department of Ag before we finished that and before it ever got to any sort of like approval levels. But I think that would be, that should probably be done concurrently with the master trails plan is, what does the stewardship of the property look like in terms of all the other uses, hunting, historic stuff. So anyway, we can pick that back up. That sort of just kind of fell off the plate a little bit.
In the master plan from the original one, the trail maintenance fell to the town of Columbia's Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Okay.
Well, I have one more question.
Mark has a question.
For Kim. Kim, the Board of Selectmen, at the request of the Friends of the Monopond Group, authorized to build a gate on Wellswood Road entrance, which is the main dirt road entrance where the ATVs and the monster trucks and the motorcycles are entering the state park. We were talking about not locking the gate, but actually having a big sign that no motorized vehicles are allowed. So anybody caught in there can't, they had to have opened the gate to get in. But is that something we should work through with Dave Buckley? Because the town still actually owns Wellswood Road, the dirt road.
Yep.
So in my mind, I can put a gate up, but it's also gating off the state park entrance that the state maintenance people might want to use. But as long as we didn't lock it, I didn't think it would be an issue.
Yeah, I'm more than happy if you send me an email and Dave an email. I can kind of keep an eye on that too to help you out. As you said, I think because it's town property, you would not need to do that. I think it's a benefit of letting us know that. The other thing that we might be able to do, and we've done on a lot of forest properties, is I know the state tends to use some combination locks, and we actually have like a similar combination throughout. So there's an opportunity, we might be able to do that. I will say if you don't lock the gate, it's very likely it's going to be opened. The motorized users can be pretty persistent, but it's one of those things. I keep saying all of our trail management activities are active management. So we have to see what works, try something out, come up with an alternative solution if needed. So yeah, definitely send that email on. Like you said, I think you guys are actually free to do what is best for you, unless there's some sort of formalized right of way. But I think coordinating this with us would be really helpful to kind of, kind of ensure that we're covering our bases and what's needed.
And Kim, what's your email? Is it Bradley at?
Yep, it's
CT.
Kimberly, so Kimberly, no E. So Kimberly Bradley at ct.gov.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Do you want to talk about the parking lot on Pine Street?
Oh, we have just one other thing we're working on is with the Board of Selectmen. The town, in purchasing the Markel property with the state, so a small quarter-acre piece of land was given to the town off Pine Street, which was the Markel's access point. And the three neighbors that abut that property feel that the town abandoned that dirt road and it's their dirt road. So we're about to have a discussion on that because we need to use that old dirt road to get to Monopond State Park. It's a critical access, but we could park probably 6 cars on this, or even more, on this little piece of property. So it's an important property to get into the back end of the park. And it would be something the town owns and we use in conjunction with the state. So I didn't know if those negotiations should be handled strictly by the town or if the state wants to have a part of it as well.
That's a really good question. That might be a good question for Tom Tyler. So he's the head of state parks. So again, if you send me some of that information, I could forward it to him and get a kind of an opinion on their
Okay,
part.
and I
So
have
that's something I'd probably move up.
I have a legal opinion too from our town attorney, and we mapped all the deeds all the way 100 years back, so we have a lot of information on it. Okay,
So
thanks.
it
Kim.
sounds like you guys, yeah, you've done everything. But I think again, it's one of those things where even if we don't take any steps, just being knowledgeable of it could be really beneficial. And we do have some capacity at the state level if there becomes issues. We have some power at the state level, especially for access to the Airline State Park Trail if need be, so we can help if needed.
And I think that's owned outright by the town.
Correct.
It's not part of the Markel state acquisition.
Correct.
Right,
It
Mark?
was given to the town.
Okay.
You're right. We completely own it.
Any other questions? No. Well, Kim, I want to thank you so much for attending this morning. It's wonderful to meet you, and thank you for noticing our little project here.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for all the work. We couldn't, oh, there's no one else in the office today, as you can tell. We couldn't do any of what we do with trails across the state without our municipalities, in particular the volunteers on commissions like yours. So yes, we definitely want you to know we are here. Let us know how we can support you. And, I definitely have, I'm a very avid Airline State Park Trail user. So I appreciate everything you put into it. I'm both a gravel rider and a mountain biker. So this is a very exciting opportunity overall, and definitely willing to kind of help with the engagement and what you need to help these opportunities be successful. So yep, definitely let me know. Feel free to reach out to me as a resource, and definitely work with me through Honor as well. I know she's been a great partner to all of you. I do want to know, like, if it's beneficial, I don't mind hanging in the background and listening in. I noticed on your old business that you have the Hop River Trail Alliance on here. I'm actually the DEP liaison for that group as well. So if it's beneficial to this group, I'll just kind of take a silent back seat, but that way if you have questions, I'm more than happy to add to any of your other topics.
Great, thank you. Honor, do you have any more news for us?
I don't. No news. TPL has a pretty full plate right now. The person who was in charge of our philanthropy and development left back in, March or April, and so we've been looking to replace that person to give us a little bit more capacity. But I've been taking on some of that and also the projects that we're doing across the state. So I haven't been able to focus on Lucarelli or Silverstein. I mean, Silverstein, I call every like 4 months, and I haven't called him in a while, but he said he'd reach out if he ever wanted to sell it. So that's where I've left that. And Lucarelli, I haven't reached out to yet, and I will probably in the new year. I have a full plate right now, so I haven't been able to do it.
What about Jake's?
I've been letting that one cook for a little bit. There were some interesting, that's obviously a beautiful property, and I think the state, that would be a really prime access point and addition to this park. And I'm happy to reach out at some point to see if he's willing to sell again, but I have not done that.
Well, that would be a really good access point.
I agree. But we have to work with willing sellers, and I think yeah.
I think he's willing. He just wants too much for it.
Well, things change in people's lives.
Yeah. You never know.
Next. Honor, we had an interesting conversation this week, and I think the committee as a whole would be interested in hearing some of the things you said, but maybe that would be an executive session. Can you hold on for that, or do you?
Yeah, we can go into executive session.
Well, I mean, can you wait for that, or do you?
We can have one right now. I'd like to accommodate Honor because she has to get to work.
No, I just have a sick kid at home today. But I am happy to talk about that conversation, Paul. Yeah, we can. I don't know that it needs to be an executive session if I'm remembering correctly what we talk about, but I'm also happy to go in if we need to. So essentially, I think what the important point for TPL, and I told Paul this, was that we have a really full portfolio of projects right now in Connecticut. We're working on a project in Hartford in the North End, which is an incredibly underserved and distressed community, creating a park there, acquiring land to create a park there. And this is the Upper Albany Ave, for those of you that know Hartford at all. It's a federal promise zone. We have a project in nearby Lebanon. We have a couple other projects on the national trails that go through Connecticut, both Appalachian and the New England National Scenic Trail. And so, and also trying to balance some philanthropy on my plate has been challenging. And so we have to think about our portfolio and our ability to support the organization, support our office here in Connecticut is dependent upon private philanthropy. And so we also have to be, think about that when we do projects. We have to be able to cover the costs of doing those projects. And, so that's an important factor as we sort of weigh the priorities of the stuff that we take on is, one, does it deliver our mission, and does it deliver on our strategic commitments to climate, health, and equity? And then also, does it support the organization? Can we cover the costs of doing the project without going in the red? That's a very important part of consideration too. And so we just have to be able to raise money when we do these things. And I'm happy to see if, talk to you all and build some momentum here in town around some of the acquisitions. But at this moment in time, it's just, I've got a full plate. And it's not to say I'm not leaving Columbia in the dust or anything. I just I've got to get through like January before we take on other things. And I'm happy to kind of have those initial conversations with John Lucarelli and his brothers to see if there's a there. And then from there we can see if there's capacity to even be able to support the project. So I can do that in the new year.
The way I understood the conversation was that there's a cost, and sometimes a very heavy cost, to TPL when they get involved, like, when they're negotiating on these individual properties to increase this. And we're not really, as a community, we're not really carrying our weight with helping and those costs.
Well, I think people have been very generous, Paul. I don't want to undermine how generous people have been in this room. What's hard is, that sometimes some communities getting the word out, getting people excited about, open space can be challenging. Just to build that network of support takes time, and it takes, a lot of, pushing and, encouraging and things like that, and getting people excited about what we're doing. And so I would love for that to happen here. And I think what we are doing is really exciting. And I think people, the Trails Plan is a really good opportunity to remind people that we're still here, we're still plugging away. And this is now a really big state park and something that the community should be proud of. And then, tie that into our philanthropy and our ability to do even more. There may be some really good opportunities as we move forward on the trails planning part. So I didn't mean to sound like you aren't pulling your weight. It's more that, it takes more than just the people, the generous people in this room to carry these things. I mean, TPL is a big organization. And so, every project, whether the land costs $200,000 or $2 million, you still have the cost, the $20,000, $30,000 survey, you still have the, $10,000 in appraisals the state requires, the federal standard. It conveying land transactions with public agencies get expensive, and that's just the nature of things. And so we have to figure out a way to raise that and the staff time and the, all the stuff that goes along with it. So there's sometimes it can be, if the land doesn't cost a lot of money, we can say to a town, listen, this is something, if you have a patient landowner and you have, a town that's willing to put some money into it, you don't need us, right? You can do this yourself. And then there are the situations where you can't do it yourself and it's too big of an ask to the community, to taxpayers. But the state, for state acquisitions, I think the money's there. There is, I don't want to speak for the state, but the Land and Water Conservation Fund is, there's a lot of money that's flowing into Connecticut every year for acquisitions and other purposes. But it's in the range of $3 and $4 million. And, that's going to come every single year. And I think that there's an opportunity to capitalize on that. If you have a patient landowner, I can help facilitate it, but you don't necessarily need TPL to do the transaction ourselves. So maybe that's a follow-up conversation for another time.
Great.
Thank you. All
Yeah.
right. Okay, so, any other questions? Thank you, Lana. So we'll move on here.
Hope your little one's feeling better soon.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Ann, I'm going to sign off and take care of my little one, but thank you for having me, and you and me and Mark maybe can get together about some strategies in the near future, in the new year.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank
Right.
you.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Anna.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Let's see. A lot of these questions are for you, Mark. Kim, I don't know if you noticed, but this Mark is the town administrator. I don't think we formally introduced you. So
No,
he's
absolutely. Nice to meet you.
he's a very important person. Okay,
Yes.
Kim, what would your phone number be? Kim, what phone number would I
Sure.
use? to get-
You know what? I'm gonna give you my work cell phone, which is the best
Okay.
way to get in touch with me because I work 2 days from home. So if you call my office, sometimes you have to wait till I'm back in the office to get to me. So my cell phone for work is 203-915-5201.
915-5201. Okay.
Yeah.
got it. Thanks, Kim.
okay. We'll just look through this. Do you have any news on Anita Faye Graham, conservation land?
No, what I've asked if he would consider, you'd said the family had some donors and wanted to pull some money together. And I have to get him a proposal from Rob Hellstrom, actually do a survey of the land donated over off of Wickham. Because before we do anything in honor of his mom, we have to make sure we're on the correct piece of property, not on someone else's property.
Right,
So I'm working on that.
You think Rob's still gonna be available for this type of stuff?
we just have to get the money in. Okay. How are we coming with the conservation restrictions
Well, and that's where,
amending?
Kim might even be a help here, but before we slap on a conservation restriction, our template one that we have, that could go on the pieces of property we own within Monopont State Park. We might want to see what the restrictions are that the state puts on the land, in case that land ever merged into the state property. I wouldn't want it to have a more restrictive restriction than the state puts on, because I have 3 issues with our covenants. One is that there shall be no placement or construction of any structure of any kind on the property. But what if the Boy Scouts want to put platforms for tent camping? And we have that restriction. Or what if you want to make a pavilion somewhere, a gazebo, and now you cannot, or an entrance welcome sign. It just, I just don't want to be so restrictive that we're tying our hands for future options. The other is there shall be no topographical changes. Well, what if we're trying to make a mountain bike jump and now we can't make a topographical change on our property, but you can on state property? Or there shall be no removal or destruction of a tree, well, or a shrub or
vegetation.
I mean, all we do is cut down dead trees. So I'm guilty. I'm concerned with that language. Now, maybe I'm looking, because I also have This was the model easement language I had. But we also had other model easement language, which was this language too. And Kim, who would I deal with to find out what restrictive covenant language the state puts on their state-owned property? Would that be Tom Tyler? Or,
So it would most likely be the Bureau, the Division of Land Management and Acquisition and Management, so they call them LAM. So I have a few different contacts I can connect you with there to find
Yeah,
out what.
I'll email you later today and then you could send me those contacts.
Okay,
And
sounds good.
I'll reach out that way too.
I can attest that the state has no issue taking trees down.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the stuff.
I will
they've done.
say-
It's awful.
There's been a new development of what is termed the hazard tree plan because of some removal that occurred in a different part of the state. So we actually have some restrictions at this point, but yeah, we definitely have a little more capacity. I will say the other piece, and I think it's important to note that since Mono Pond is a state park, we definitely have a lot more capacity for recreation in state parks. It's a little more work to have recreation and trail access in our forests, and then very restrictive within our wildlife management areas. So it is notable that Mono Pond is a state park.
Okay.
And Mark, I'll just concur with you. That was my impression too, when I read through it, that it seems like
Too restrictive.
way too restrictive.
Right.
And it didn't open it up to future possibilities.
Right.
So I would just.
Well, I know Zegna Farm, I would have loved to have put our disc golf course on that property, but it says no permanent recreational
But,
structures.
but that was a condition of the open space and watershed grant.
Okay. But
That
putting,
was not-
cementing one little pole in
Yeah, you gotta.
hardly harms the land, but I guess it might have a disc flying by you while you're bird watching, maybe would upset me.
You could always have portable instead of permanent.
Oh, we tried a portable one at the playground in Rec Park and it already got
Plus,
climbed on and bent.
It walks away.
There you go.
Acquisitions.
If you build it, they will
But-
climb on it.
I am working on this, so
Good.
I'll start working with the state as well, once I hook up
Wonderful.
with what she's recommending.
I had one question. So all these little pieces of land, they're a part of the Midbrook Preserve. There's also town-owned land that was a part of the original Island Woods development that abuts that
Mhm.
Wellswood. Is there any thought of maybe including some of those pieces of land as a part of this
Sure.
Midbrook Preserve?
Sure.
You know, it's like my backyard goes down to the town property, and I walk on the trail, cross the road, and I'm on state property, so it's like,
Yeah, I think what we'll be doing is when we start doing this master trails program, everything will be on the table. And we'll give access to include all our town lanes in this master plan. We don't want to be excluded and have a trail go around Midbrook Preserve. That might be.
Good thought.
Okay,
Okay, I think we've already covered Pine Street parking. Hop River Trail Alliance,
That's what she was interested in.
yes.
Is she all fine?
So does anybody have a report on that?
well, right now our liaison is Beth Lunt is the official town representative on that. And Tom, have you been going to those meetings too?
I've never been going to any meetings, but I've been following, they have a Facebook page that's pretty active as to what's going on, so I've been following that.
Okay, and I think what they're trying to do is really come up with a vision and then try to have the town supply some of the work crew requirements along with the state. I did get good news, the plans for behind Main Moose for that walking bridge just arrived down to land use. So that was a shock.
Yes.
There's actual movement, because it's been dormant for 3 years.
Okay.
Uh,
Good.
The one thing that I saw the past couple of days was in Manchester, there's a Cheney Rail Trail, and they're now gonna try to connect that with the Hop River Trail.
Okay.
So there's some monies and planning and things for that. That would make it, so if you were able to ride your mountain bike from my backyard to the airline trail, to the Hop River Trail, I could get to dinner in Manchester.
Or the Willamette.
Or whatever, yeah, whatever, I can
Take the car.
Um, The president of the Hop River Trail Alliance is John Hankins, and I know him well through Joshua Strauss. And he told me that the meetings, I complained that I didn't get an invitation to the next meeting. And he said, well, mostly they've chosen a board, and I guess Beth is part of
That
that
is
board.
our town representative.
And so most of the subsequent meetings have been board meetings. So that the rest of us peons have not been invited, but,
But I think you're welcome to go to the meetings.
well, yes, except I don't hear about them. Otherwise, I would.
Well, I'll make sure you know when they are.
Thank you. And just to stay tuned and to find out
Okay.
what's going on there.
Has everybody seen what they've done in Andover?
I haven't been down there yet.
That is incredible.
I haven't gone that.
Isn't
Little
it?
parking area, bike rack,
Little bike rack and
benches.
bike fixing station.
Behind General Dollar.
It's, you know, the old town is, I don't know.
It's right
Oh,
on
no,
Route 6.
Way past that.
Oh,
They've
Across from
also,
Automotive.
a couple of, in Andover, there are a bunch of crossings. There's the bridge,
Nice
and
parking.
then Shining Hill Road, Wales Road, and Burnett Brook. And one of them, I forget which one, because when I'm on it, I lose track. But there was a big grade to get up to the road crossing. And they've sort of fixed the road and fixed that. So it's a little bit easier to go through. And so, yes, Andover.
One of the things that was nice with a lot of the work they did was signage and directions to local businesses. Whereas in the past, the state would not allow that on the airline trail, because it was different places. They wanted to direct them to a general store or an ice cream stand, and they wouldn't let them put signs up. Kim, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
So,
Sorry about that. Got hold onto a call really quick.
Has the state changed their opinion on signage on the rail trails to direct to local businesses like ice cream stands and general stores? I know for a while it wasn't allowed.
Yeah, so I will say, for both the Airline State Park Trail and the Hop River Trail, we're working on this. So this is something I've kind of put some time and effort into. I will say that I think the Airline State Park plan that's coming up with the collaboration with all of our towns should have some good pressure put on this. I know that in general, there is a stance that's taken of keeping our state parks with minimal signage, providing more kind of immersive experiences in some of our natural resources. I personally have had a discussion on this, and I'm working towards the fact that our linear trails really need to provide a different type of opportunity. And one of the main benefits of, in particular, our multi-use trails and long distance trails is connecting to our municipalities in that economic development perspective. So I myself am taking some efforts to try to support some additional signage. What a kind of a compromise that's come up is that right now, you know, a lot of these areas have town property that's just abutting our properties. So we could put signage kind of off the state property right now, but I'm working more and more internally to try to come up with, and what we hope to do is even somewhat of a standardized approach so that it's easy to use for the user on these systems, and also maybe kind of acceptable as we work our way up in the division of state parks. So this is a very active effort, and I think, you know, support, and even if you send me an email noting that this is an interest of yours, I think the more we can have input from our communities on the need for this, the more we can move that forward.
So the signs that went up on in Andover on the Hot River Trail were on town property.
Yep.
Okay.
And Kim, just
Yeah,
so you
so
know,
that's kind of what's been happening is they use like the adjacent town property that's right there to put the signage up just off of state property. But I'm trying to make some changes to that. It's going to take some time.
Kim, just so you know, I'm on the Eastern Regional Tourism Council, and they just voted to financially support a reprinting of the Z-fold maps for economic development combination airline Hop River Trail. It's mainly the airline trail they're focusing on, but we're going to do a reprint because they're such a big hit.
That is great. That is great. And for this group, those maps are just so much fun. I've gotten quite a few of them. I've kind of been collecting them from my use of the airline trail and kind of work with some of the groups adjacent to it. What I will say as well is that there is an effort, the Hop River Alliance, I know it's later in your agenda, so I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the Hop River Alliance is looking at a potential rec trails grant for wayfinding signage efforts, and in a sense, a way to identify which town users are in as you move along trail systems. Wayfinding can always be a challenge because where do you start with mile 0 or mile 1? That's can be contentious. So I think it'll be an interesting effort. The airline state park group is kind of paying close attention to this, and I'm trying to serve as liaison to DEP in hopes that we can make some movement forward on this. Could be kind of an initial step of getting some signage that's really starting to bring the understanding of each of our towns and communities and helping to get some access and connection to our town centers and our different business entities that are connected to the trail. So stay tuned on that. I'm more than happy to provide updates as that continues as well.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. The next item is Hop River Preserve, and that is very much related because the town acquired a piece of open space from a subdivision set aside, and we're applying for historical preserve status, half of it, and the other half will be a small piece for fishing, picnicking, and that sort of thing. So we're hoping to link this to, by signage, to the Hop River rail trail, because it's right there. It's just across the river next to the bridge. So it's very easily accessed. But we're in the beginning stages, and so we're working on that. And the thing we're working on currently is getting into the budget cycle, getting into the budget, making requests, and then doing ground penetrating radar on the historic part to find out actually what's there underground. So
Where the bones are.
Yes, where the bodies are.
Are they hoping for grant money for that, or are you hoping for town funding that?
We'll find out later. We're hoping for a grant.
Okay.
But we're gonna try to hit the town up for like a bike rack. A couple of things. It's not a big ask. Okay. Salmon River Partnership. Any news?
Nothing's happening. We have a meeting next week.
Okay, good.
No report.
Okay, and Cobb Farm, protection of development rights. I'm waiting for a survey to be filed, and then I will reapply to the Department of Agriculture. Okay. And so that's in limbo right now.
What kind of survey? Just boundaries? Or,
Yes, and Rob, Kristen hired Rob Elstrom, and he's indisposed at the moment. So we're waiting. Friends of Mono Pond, do you have any further news?
Yeah, so Friends of Mono Pond, we went through all the steps now, so we're an official 501c3 nonprofit. A part of what, until we meet with the state, which is the first, now that we've had a little bit of a conversation with Kim, it really is, we have to find out what it is we can and can't do out in the park. And until they start developing the new master plan for the trails, we can't maintain the trails that don't exist yet, those kind of things. We are planning to put an article in the Columbia Views, the next issue, just to at least bring attention to the community that we exist and that will be involved down the road with all of this stuff. We're still trying to figure out, like other friends of state parks, how to establish membership or, how different types of things, just the whole starting up, just like starting up a business, getting a presence on Facebook and a website and all that stuff. So be more to come, but right now we're still in that infancy stage. So
Tom, for your article, would you make sure you hook up with Paul so we get some great photos of the area? I'm sure you might have a few. Thank you.
I thought before, because some of the people in the room are on the board of the Friends of Mono Pond, and maybe before we submit the article, we might share it with a few other people, see what their thoughts are.
Very good.
You might want to include a map of the whole park, because
There really
you
is.
might not realize how big it is.
Kim, do you have a map of the whole property? I know I had gotten one that was 2 sections when they like surveyed it, walked all the existing trails. But I don't have like a one, and I don't even know if you want.
Yeah, let me
we
work
want
on
that?
that because I'm actually we try to maintain don't have I have to keep moving. It keeps me exercised in the office. I am actually meeting up with our GIS person right after our meeting, so I could definitely ask him. I'll check what we have, but if we need something that's not available online right now, we can work on updating that as well.
Yeah, the only thing that's online is the original park. It's either the original.
That's what I was
park
thinking.
Or the hunting map or whatever. So there's really nothing from the state that talks to the whole land that's out there now. But it may be premature to keep it out. I don't know.
No,
That's okay.
Keep selling it.
Why would it be premature? It wouldn't be.
Well, there's trails.
We need maps. We need maps and this article could use a map.
But the trails might change. I won't-
Right, that's what I'm saying. The trails.
Trails are gonna change. Everything's gonna change, but there is no good map that does justice. I had that one, that Trust for Public Land put out. The colors for the various properties. That just, it's not very clear, what's going on. A nice
Yeah.
map would be useful.
And
Let
that'd
me
be-
work on that, because I agree. I think that that's something we should have for all of our state parks, so let me work on that.
Okay,
Thank you. Okay, does anyone have any new business?
Yeah, well, I don't want to interrupt if anybody else says, I have two things, but I'll try and be really quick on. And one I think involves Tom, and the Friends of. Honor was much more pointedly with me, and I called her about a grant opportunity that I had heard of and whether she was interested, whether it could be useful to this trails or not. And I just got the feeling from Honor that there are towns that work closely with TPL and help contribute to their costs, and there are towns that don't. And I think that one of the things that is the fundamental property of a Friends group is fundraising. When I first talked to that lady right at the very beginning, wasn't she from Salem too? The very first lady that was gonna kind of guide us through.
Yeah, it was,
Okay,
yes.
I think fundraising, she said, was very important to Friends groups. And that you had to have your status as your 501.
Yep, yep.
You know, to be able to do that. And I just think that that's a direction that we probably, it's not the function of the open space committee to fundraise. But I think the priorities, I think that Honor is a one-man band in this state. And I mean, here she's talking about Hartford and she's talking about other towns that she's got to deal with. And I think that they just look at where are their priorities, where are they getting help, and where is there really confirmed interest in the work that they're doing. And I just really think that we've got to start putting together some kind of a program for fundraising.
and I just want to say that the town has been very involved
Yes.
in this project, in that we acquired several properties to further this whole project. That being said, the town has been very generous to the project, but that did not benefit TPM.
No, not at all.
Because Honor gets a salary. They have to pay mappers and surveyors and appraisers and pay the rent on the office and things like that. And
She threw out a number, like a little piece of property that we might be buying. It might cost them $75,000 to $100,000. That's, she threw that out and I wouldn't want to hold it.
in administrative.
Yeah, but what it's costing TPL to participate in this, even if it's a town or the state buying it, they still have enormous costs into this. And I think that, we really want to keep their attention. We're not done.
It'd be good if the state land did not require a yellow book appraisal. That seems like a waste of money when you have a landlocked piece of property, which is why we bought those on our own. To do yellow book appraisals would be more than the property was worth. So it's kind of silly.
And the other point I have is also about money. Is money interesting? But this has to do with zoning. And I think right now, they are challenging the only source of income that open space has. And that's with a set aside, either a fee or set aside in developments. And you can probably have an opinion go either way on this, but I think the most obvious example is we never, ever, without that, we wouldn't have gotten this Hop River property with the old foundations of the mill and everything else if it hadn't have been that there had to be some type of contribution. Now, whether it's modified that, you know, if there's something of real interest to open space, then there's some kind of negotiation. And if there's not, then there's no fee or whatever, there's just the subdivision goes through, but like, I can't imagine us not having gotten this, and it didn't affect the subdivision whatsoever. I mean, they still got all the lots they needed, and yet we got this magnificent piece on the river, you know, with all its history and everything else. But I think that right now, there's a lot of interest in the zoning commission to do away with it altogether, and I just think that we need an approach. We need to be unified on, you know, attend the meetings or whatever. You know,
Right.
so that we're at least participating in how this thing turns out.
Right, and I've been attending either in person or on Zoom to watch this situation as it's developing. And, you know, there's nothing that this commission can do to influence or alter it in any way.
Well, you could.
That's
That's not true. So I'll speak to this just a little bit, because I'm on that, actually on the subcommittee who's working on that.
Okay.
So this is part of an overall revision of the subdivision regulations, which falls into the same process of any regulation changes. So there's a subcommittee who's working on initial draft. It goes in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Everyone has the ability to give input, whether it's through public comment and public hearing. There'll be a public hearing on it. And then at the end of the process, however long it takes, which sometimes takes a long time, that we vote on. So, you know, for me, sitting on both committee and commission, I told Ann this, I will be completely 100% transparent on what we're working on, what we're doing, and what my personal thoughts are. So as we go through, I think a lot of times we make assumptions on what's going on versus what actually might be happening. And right now, there's no final product. It's still in the works. So the next subcommittee meeting's on the 29th. We're meeting again, I think, on the 5th. That's the subcommittee meeting, and then that's outside the regular planning and zoning meetings. So as we move forward, I'm happy to give you guys whatever appropriate updates I can. And I would encourage you, one of the things since I've gotten involved that's been very disappointing to me is the lack of involvement, where we see these things like last minute and it's like, oh, this happened in the dark of night. It's like, no, you just didn't go to meetings. So I would highly encourage people to attend regardless of what your opinion is. On this particular instance, I'm probably going to disagree with a lot of you on what should be done, but I think that's going to be healthy because we need to look at both sides of that equation and perspective. Because one of the things that the open space committee has a lot of influence, and especially around subdivisions and how we talk about subdivisions and how they get subdivided and what a subdivision actually is. There's a lot of problems with the language that we use around subdivisions. And one of the things that would really behoove people who are for open space is to ask, at what point do we go too far with some of these things? And it actually works against us. So I'm happy to have those conversations. It's something I can talk about for 4 hours. I'm not going to bore you with, but the long and short of it is, as we move along, I think it's important to have an open dialogue and not make any assumptions about what's going on. It's all laid out. And right now, we just don't have a clear plan. It's all in the draft phases. So
Infancy.
infancy, yes.
And where do you meet?
Here, yeah, it's hybrid, so the actual planning and zoning meetings are Zoom and here. Usually Mondays. They just released the 2023 schedule. I think it should be on the website.
Okay.
And if you guys ever have any questions on it, just email me.
But the subcommittee meetings or not?
Well, the subcommittees those meetings are separate. They're not public meetings, but the planning and zoning actual meetings are obviously like this.
Okay, but the subcommittee meeting is just you guys.
Yeah, it's just three of us. So it's
So
me.
when would be the next regular meeting that your subcommittee would report to?
Let me email you guys, because I think things change with the holidays.
January.
It's in January, and we've also got a lot on our plate right now with some public hearings and stuff, but I'll send you guys what's going on.
And just to tune in, what is it? Second and fourth or first and third Mondays?
Look, I think it's the first and third, but don't hold me to that. I'll email you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
It's just very, very interesting to attend planning and so, you know, you find out what's going on and I have learned a tremendous amount.
And you're the only person I've ever known that really loves meetings.
I can attest that she's pretty much all over.
Well, you know, I didn't major in this in college. I majored in food chemistry. And, you know, there's a difference here. I have a lot to learn. And this is where I've learned it from people at meetings. Anyway, I digress. But let me ask you this, Justin. Would it be beneficial to planning and zoning to hear a really short presentation on the theory of open space? You remember when I did and got out that did watersheds and why open space? Would that help, or would I be preaching to?
I think that's always helpful. I think it's a mix of opinion on planning and zoning. I think that it's one of those things that's like, well, are you against rainbows? Are you against open space? Like, no one's against open space. It's how open space is acquired and kind of the details that people are more in conflict about. So I think any information that would help just lay the foundation is always helpful. I think where we need to be realistic is, you know, when you get outside of a group setting and you start getting input from the public and they start learning about how things are acquired, or how money is acquired, that's where it really turns people off sometimes. And that's where the controversy comes. And that's why we're discussing the future of either acquisitions through subdivisions or the fee loop. And there's legitimate points on both sides. And I'm not trying to be like overly diplomatic, but that's where the controversy comes from. So, and I imagine there's gonna be a lot of discussion about that particular.
The other thing that concerns me is there are an awful lot of realtors on planning and zoning. And so I wonder if their thinking is skewed by the bottom line.
Well, I can't speak to that. Like, there's two realtors, and I've always found them to be reasonable and fair to the point where I think they recuse themselves when they need to. And listen, everybody's got an opinion and a point of view. And it's surprised me personally getting into the commission, like how I cannot put people in a box. Like you're this, you have this background, you're this political party, you should feel this way. And it's like, no, 180 degrees opposite. So that's what elections are for. So.
Yeah.
I wanted to respond to Paul's comment about fundraising. So Friends of Montauk Pond, like all the Friends group, is we're not supposed to be replacing paid state staff, and we're not supposed to be replacing state budgets. So this is my first attempt at being involved with the Friends group. So I don't know, when we fundraise, what can we fundraise? What makes sense for us to fundraise for versus what we should expect the state to do? You know, it's like, if the town is gonna develop a parking lot, maybe we're involved with that because it's not really the state budget. but it's a parking lot that will help Monmouth Pond. But if the state is building a parking lot and signage and whatever on state land, maybe we shouldn't be fundraising, so that, I would love to do fundraising, but I'm not sure where, what we're supposed to do.
I bet if you got back, and I'm drawing a blank on her name.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, I bet if you got back to her, she would give you real guidance on that, because, I mean, that's what she said, she was gonna help oversee this.
Right, and there is this whole Friends of Connecticut State Parks group.
Right.
So now that we're formed, I or other people could attend their meetings if and when they have them. So I have never attended one of their meetings either, so it's, like I said, we're still trying to figure out what we're allowed to do, what we shouldn't do, what we should raise money for, so that's, you know, a lot, some of these other parks too, they actually
Right,
have
and,
buildings and things that are already there that need,
yeah, or is it even appropriate or legal for the Friends group to raise money for TPL?
right,
That's an important question.
Hebrews, it's $40 to the Hebrew Lions to go through their rec park, Winter Wonderland.
Yeah, I think the question around fundraising is an important one.
Yeah, how do you want to do it?
That's
There's a lot of
always,
ways.
that's always the best way to do it. So like, what do you need in a 12-month period? What is that dollar amount? How do you break it down? How do you make it? And then the fees and lieu will become an issue, right?
But you know, it's too bad that that's our only source. I mean, we've talked in this committee many times about why the town doesn't do bonding for open space. Manchester, Mansfield does bonding, Glastonbury does bonding, Lebanon does. I mean, we don't provide a source of revenue in case something should come up. I mean, 5PAC has always said, if you need money, we'll find it. But sometimes that would never be in time if something came up. I mean, like, what if one of these properties, what if one of these guys passes and all of a sudden it's on the table? And it's either you buy it now or we're putting it on the market. You know, where's the money to do that? So I'm not sure that the subdivision should be ours. And I don't think we've gotten money in years anyway. You know, but I think on the other hand, if there's a valuable piece of open space within that subdivision, like the Hop River was, then I think that we should have some sort of oversight.
Give you some inside information. Do you know what, for a lot of people, prompted the discussion around doing away with that stuff?
Hop River.
That turned a lot of people off.
Yeah.
That Hop River subdivision. Because basically, and I'm of this opinion too, we took that man's best piece of property on that north lot and wouldn't let the subdivision go through until we got exactly what we wanted. And you may disagree with that opinion, but that's a valid opinion by a lot of people. So I think we need to look at it from that perspective too. You know,
Well, I think they still got their lots, and it's such a historical piece.
oh, I agree. It's a good, I mean, I walked it. It's
I don't think anybody would
I
disagree.
don't disagree with that. It's just to say,
Yeah.
you've been on that property for decades, you want to make 3 lots out of it. You're not proceeding until we get exactly that piece, and then we negotiated more. Well, he went over the percentage originally and what he proposed to us and said, no, gotta move it south, we need this. We gotta look at the public perception of that, so.
Okay,
Lessons to learn.
anything else? Okay. Thank you, Kim. Thank you all for attending. And
So just let us know when the next.
Yeah.
Report is on.
I'll email you guys the whole schedule.
motion to adjourn.
At 10:21.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Thank you, Ken.
Nice to have her up there.